Everybody. So nice to be here with you. January 2025. Here we go. So this month, I want to talk about whether we want to call it faith versus fear or connection versus separation. So much is happening on the planet right now. We've just had devastating fires that have been ravaging California. There's been the earthquake in Tibet just recently and the taking of Tibetan children into China to indoctrinate them to loyalty to Beijing. The new law in Afghanistan that residential buildings are no longer allowed to have windows because women could be seen. And that could cause obscene acts. That's what the new law says. So women under Taliban rule are being completely silenced. They're not allowed an education beyond grade 6. They're not allowed to work. They're no longer allowed to speak in public places. They are not allowed to go to a public park. And now they are not allowed to even look outside. The Israeli war on Gaza and the peace talks, the ceasefire deal, it's looking to be more rocky as we go. The kidnapping of Maria Machado, the opposition leader of Maduro in Venezuela right before the elections. Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook announcing that they will no longer be fact-checking or pulling content down from Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. A new bill introduced in American Congress by the GOP called Resolution 7, where women's rights to life-affirming care should also consider the effect on men's well-being. Look it up. This is 2025, and it was just introduced at the beginning of January, and it's in essence introducing a national ban on abortion. But it's in the wording. Here's the wording specifically. Whereas health care for women should also address the needs of men, families, and communities as they relate to women's health care. Sorry, what? So, if you are a woman, there is a lot going on in the world right now. And we are in a time where we need to be so mindful of fear. It is easy to feel like we are under attack. It is easy for men to feel like they don't know how to make these changes. They don't know how to behave. I have spoken to a lot of men and they're not sure what's expected of them. There is a lot of confusion. There is a lot of fear. There's a lot of misalignment. And our nervous systems go into dysregulation whenever we go into fear, whenever we think about it, whether we're experiencing it or not. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between those two things because your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between reality and fantasy. So even if you are thinking about it and creating and projecting worlds, your nervous system is acting like it is happening. And every time you pick up your phone and go onto social media and read something or watch something, your nervous system is responding like there's a giant bobcat in the room waiting to, have you for lunch. It's just slowly trolling you. So we need to talk about how we navigate these feelings in an empowered way that supports your internal work to maintain your alignment. You see, that's the biggest point of all. You get to decide what takes you out of your alignment. There's no greater power than your relationship with yourself and what I call sort of bigger you, right? Your higher self, or that part of you that isn't housed in your body alone, where your intuition and your instincts come from. Where do they come from? Have you ever thought about that? We need to understand that we have three minds. We have our conscious mind, which is our thinking mind. This is how our brain processes data that comes in through our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, and even what we sense and feel. Our eyes and our ears and our smell. But most of us, 80% of us, our perceptions, our opinions and decisions are based on what we take in visually. We are, most of us on the planet, visual dominant. And our brains process a large amount of information through our eyes, leading to a strong reliance on visual cues when forming our opinions. But we also have our subconscious mind, and no one really taught us about this ever, because that would be like handing you the keys to you, like the operating manual. You have everything that you need within you, and here's how it works. We didn't get that in school. You don't need the authority figures if you can create your own experiences. Then we all get to respect each other as equals, equal power, and that has never been part of the agenda. But you can choose to learn about your subconscious mind and recognize that it is infinite power without any direction. So your job is to direct it. It's the power that once it accepts your instructions through your words and through your beliefs, because the subconscious mind governs your body and governs your nervous system. It knows what you're thinking. It knows what you're feeling. You cannot trick it. You cannot lie to it. And it will sabotage things in order to protect you. Things you may want, but to the subconscious mind, those things equate to scary. So it's going to make sure you don't get anywhere near them. And this is where it gets tricky, because we're trying to resolve things consciously, and yet it's our subconscious mind that runs the show. It's the one that stores the memories, prioritizes them, and projects forward, creating and lining up all the circumstances that we walk into and experience. So as we start to do this through our own words and our own beliefs, and our emotions begin to change. That's the very first thing that starts to happen. We start to feel a little differently before we see any evidence of that. And then we start to change how we behave, because behavior will always follow emotions. And our beliefs and our opinions change over time because it becomes a pattern. And then you begin to live very atypically to the collective that is designed to constantly flow you messages of fear. And then we also have the superconscious mind, which is whatever name you want to assign to it. God, the universe, all that is. Whatever language you use to describe the infinite power that creates galaxies and multiverses, that keeps planets spinning in orbit. Did you know that Einstein used to refer to the subconscious mind as the intuitive mind, and the superconscious mind as the other mind? So we had our conscious mind, but he said, there are other minds. Now, they didn't have the term hypnosis back then. They didn't have the term subconscious and superconscious. They weren't studying that. So he used to just call it other minds. I would access the state of my other mind. And he said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. But we actually are operating in reverse to that. And then the circumstances line up, and we feel like all we can do is respond to the world. But that's not how that works. We've got that in reverse. If you think about those words, the intuitive mind is the sacred gift. It's actually, and I would add to that, it's the power, right? It's the infinite power. And the rational mind, the conscious mind, is a faithful servant to that. So what we think the subconscious mind will carry out, so it is the servant to the conscious mind, in reverse of what Einstein has said. However, if we utilize our subconscious mind to create and line up the things that we want, as soon as the subconscious mind accepts it, it creates that environment to make your conscious mind right. So there is power in understanding how all of this works. Superconscious comes in with those solutions, but we have no access to that if we are in stress, number one. That's completely cut off. And if we are only operating in logic, if we are only operating in our conscious mind, those resources don't flow to us. They always flow to us, but we don't let them in. We don't even notice them. It is subtle, right? We have to let go and come back into our natural alignment where all three minds work together and things flow into our experience. But we don't do that. We usually operate only from our conscious mind in a stress response, worried about that giant bobcat we keep seeing, wondering when it's going to come to get us. And our subconscious mind will make us right about that and show us the evidence of everywhere else life is scary. And then it will sabotage us from going after anything, being seen, being big, launching that business, speaking your mind, feeling beautiful, feeling comfortable, feeling successful. Anything that you want, if that exposure equates to more risk, it won't let you. And it will sabotage those circumstances. So whatever that looks like, the job doesn't come, the change doesn't come, the money doesn't come, the relationship doesn't come, things are rocky, things are uncomfortable, and we just get locked in this loop of where can I place blame? Now remember, this is all unconscious. Nobody wants to be a bad person. None of us really want to be bad people. Nobody listening to this wants to be a bad person. But we don't understand how our minds work, right? So I want you to think about what Einstein said, because he actually attributes the subconscious mind with his theory of relativity. He used to put himself into hypnosis. They didn't call it that, but what he used to do is he used to use it daily. He would put ball bearings in his hand and lie on the couch, because he knew if he fell asleep, his fingers would relax and the ball bearings would drop down to the floor and they would ping and they would wake him up, because the goal wasn't go to sleep. The goal was access an altered state, access that other mind. And so he used it daily as part of a broader approach to problem solving that involved mental imagery, because that's the dominant language of the subconscious mind. It's the dominant language of our brain. Imagery, he called it image streaming. That's what he called it, image streaming. And it allowed him to visualize problems and ideas. Then in hypnosis, he would engage his subconscious mind and, in my opinion, superconscious mind as well. And it would flow the solutions to him. The subconscious mind is the power. It creates the circumstances to carry out what you're instructing it to carry out. So the superconscious is the infinite intelligence that has all of those solutions. And in order to receive those solutions, we have to maintain our alignment. We cannot receive the solutions if we are closed down in fear, with a dysregulated nervous system, focusing only on what our eyes are telling us. You starting to put this together with me? Connecting some dots here about how you're living your life, and small changes create massive results. Keep that in mind. The smallest of changes, the smallest of consciousness work creates massive results. So we believe this is all there is to reality, right? What we see, what we have evidence of, but it isn't. All it requires us to practice is accessing our subconscious mind, learning how to have a relationship with it, learning how to investigate our beliefs and question them, because science has shown that most of our beliefs, we have our opinions before we're 35. By the time we're mid-30s, 30, 31, 32, 33, in there somewhere, we have decided, we have experienced enough life, we are independent enough, and we have our opinions on everything, and we just project them onto new circumstances, new situations, over and over and over again, applying the same belief. Now, the subconscious mind's primary directive is to keep you safe and to keep you alive. So what do you think is dominant in the subconscious mind? The things where you got hurt, the experiences where you had emotional pain or physical pain, where you were hurt, and it's never going to let you get near them again. So if we don't look at our beliefs, the chances are we're walking around with the little version of us that got hurt, that's prioritized in the subconscious mind to make sure we never experience that again. But there's this other part of us, right? There's this other part of us that knows there's a path for us, that knows that we have these desires of things we want to experience, of life that we want to have, and we keep bumping into each other. And there's this internal conflict that happens. And as a result, we have this identity conflict. This is what I believe, but this is what I want, and I can't get there from here. And I don't know how to look at my beliefs. I don't really look at my beliefs, because if I look at my beliefs, it feels like self-judgment. It feels like I am doing something wrong, and we have to just put that down. We have to take that off the table. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You have had experiences. And if we have not healed from those experiences, if we have not taken wisdom from them and put down that pain, then we are just projecting that and walking into that experience, creating that in front of us, and eventually it catches up and we walk into it and we say, I can see how this is a match to what I've been thinking and believing. I may not like it, but it works. So I'm doing a great job. I'm doing a great job of creating what I don't want to experience. And if I can say that with a little bit of lightheartedness, then I can move forward and say, but what if I started to change that? What if I started to look at what I really believe? Do I still believe that? Or is that the 6-year-old version of me? Is that the 13-year-old that got hurt? Is that the 22-year-old that had that experience? Is that version of me what's really active right now when I say these things? And you're going to hear it on autopilot, but you probably don't even notice it, and we do it all day long. It requires us to look and to investigate and to practice. It requires us to look at the stories that we tell that we just say are true. In fact, I want you to think right now, if I said to you, tell me something that had a major impact on your life. If you were just to close your eyes right now and think, what had a major impact on my life? Your brain is going to go to something negative first, because that's how it works. That's what's prioritized. Now, if you take that further and you say, so what did I learn from that experience? That's what you want to start to look at. Is the next thing that you say, so for example, my mind goes back to this experience where XYZ happened. And so what did I learn from that? I can't trust people. I need to be careful. It's not safe. There's a judgment that comes right after. And that is what's silently running the show. And I'm not saying it's not true for you, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm saying that alignment will never get you where you want to go. Those two things don't occupy the same space. You'll never get there. We need a bridge to get from there to there. And that bridge is, I have to look at it. And I have to decide, maybe that's not right for me anymore. Maybe that's the evidence of one event that happened. Or maybe it happened over multiple times and it compounded. But now you get to decide. You get to have a demarcation line and say, but what if I don't want that anymore? What if I want to live my life differently? What if I get to choose differently? You have that option readily available to you all day, every day. But your brain likes patterns. It likes familiarity. So you got to do the uncomfortable work at looking at what's creating the environment you're not enjoying. This is how we start to change that alignment. And when you do the smallest of things, you start to see there's a bit of a release in that. And maybe I want to frame that differently. And maybe I notice things just come right out of my mouth. And I don't want to use those kinds of, I call them loaded words. Right? Maybe I don't want to say that way anymore. What if I just adjusted that little piece? What would start to change for me? It's interesting because Einstein believed that we were all geniuses. Every single one of us. And I agree. We are. We all are made the same. We are all equal. How we express it and what we believe is uniquely ours. And none of it is wrong. None of it. It's all an experience. But if you don't like what you're experiencing, we have to turn the opinion around that it's because of the outside circumstances. If we are dependent on those changing, then we are constantly negotiating with a world of other people, a sea of people that you can't control at all. And they will never be able to give you what you want. Because you know what? They didn't get the memo that it's all about you. They didn't get the memo that it's your story and it needs to go this way. And they're the support actor. Like, they didn't get that. So you have to decide, this is me. This is entirely my relationship with me now, and I get to choose. I get to decide. Just that. If just that statement went in, that would start to open things up right there. So I want you to be mindful. I don't really care what anybody's politics are. I don't care. There's too much focus on that. What I care about is, are you happy? Are you thriving? Are you living in alignment with yourself in a way that you wake up every day saying, I am so lucky. I am so grateful. I get to experience more of this. And when the challenging stuff comes, I'm going to be okay. Because you know what? I'm strong and I'm smart and I have a community and I'm connected and. And if you're not able to do that, then we need to get to work. We need to get to work and find more of the evidence for that and begin to create that for you so that your brain says, yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. Because this is no different than you saying to your mind, I always use this example because that's my car. And this is what happened. I loved Volkswagen Beetles for the longest time. And then I kind of forgot all about them because I had dogs and I wanted to buy an SUV so that the dogs were comfortable in the back, and it just kind of wasn't there anymore. And then one day I was teaching a class and I was teaching them a process of how you go out into that future and feel all those feelings and make it really real, because in your subconscious mind, it doesn't know that it's not happening. And so we were really going through this process. And about an hour or two later, I'm out for a walk in the woods and in drops this beautiful picture of this Volkswagen Beetle. And at that time, my Jeep had broken down and I didn't have a car, and I was looking, but I just wasn't really wanting another Jeep again. So I was in this sort of limbo place of, I don't know. And that dropped in and I thought, you're right, subconscious mind, I forgot all about that. I have always wanted one of those. And of course I looked and I found one the very next day, and I drove and I took it for a drive and I bought it and I drove it home 2 or 3 days later. And I thought, that's how we're supposed to be all the time. It's always available to us, always. But you got to believe that. You've got to believe it's available to you. And if you don't, you've got to clean up why. But what was interesting is as soon as that dropped in, I started seeing them everywhere. On the drive to the dealership where the car was, there was just these beetles all over the road. I'd never seen so many beetles in my life. But because my brain said, oh, we want a beetle? Oh, beetles are here and here and here. They're available everywhere. We can absolutely have this. There is no difference between that and what you want. The only difference is our emotions. If we have heightened emotions about it, particularly self-judgment, well, I would love that, but I don't know if I can. I would like that, but my bank account says. Well, maybe, but I haven't had that experience in relationships. We want to justify why we don't have what we want in a way where we don't feel emotional pain. We want to avoid that pain. The subconscious mind is to make sure that we move away from that pain. So it's going to say this person did this and that person did this, and it's not my fault. It happened over here. And all that does is keep us locked in that cycle over and over and over again with that conflict. Because the subconscious mind and the superconscious mind is never going to come in here and say, you're right. You're absolutely right. I can keep galaxies in existence, but not that. I can't do that for you. You're right. You are absolutely right. You can't have that. That doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. So if we can start to look at how we talk to ourselves and what we are so convinced is right, is it yielding what you want because the evidence in front of you of your life is telling you it isn't? Can you look at that and sit with that discomfort without self-judgment? Can you? Because if you can do that, you become extraordinarily powerful. And then you can start to piece it together. I've been saying this and I've been believing this because all those things happened. But who did I become as a result of all those things happening? So do I want to maybe believe something else now and maybe see how that starts to feel? And if that starts to feel differently, then I'm going to start to do some things differently. I'm going to start to make some different choices. My behavior starts to change. And that's the part that all starts to feel natural. But there's a path to walking that bridge, and it gets confusing. It gets really confusing unless you let your subconscious mind lead the way, because it knows you. It knows what you want. It knows where you're going. It has all the resources. It's the infinite power. It's what you direct. But you've got to learn how to direct it. I thought that was a conversation really worthy of having this month as we begin this new year. Let's make 2025 extraordinary. You're needed. You, healthy, aligned, happy, and thriving for the road ahead as the example, you are needed. We need that for the road ahead. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your month, and I will see you next month.